Now you can see this machine here. All right, and we're gonna cut to the B-roll. Nice shape, right? Nice machine. He's about $300 and something a push. The newer style Briggs motors. Not a great machine, kind of flimsy, but that's what's out there today. About $320 or so. It's not that old. I don't know what the date is. Who cares? You can see it looks like it's in nice shape. I just cleaned it. This is March. It's Long Island. Contractor. We'll get to the story because it's important. So probably left out. I mean, it's been raining and snowing and probably left out all winter long. And I just cleaned it. So this is Long Island, and you would see sand, micro sand and silt from organic matter splashing up all over it. Probably even sitting in a puddle. I mean, if you have to leave a machine out, I got some tips how to keep water and junk out of the gas tank, and I'll show you the fuel in a minute because it was full. It was full, right? You can see a little bit here. I use my sucker tool, right? And that gas looks pretty good, but there's all this crap. I'll get another shot. There's water in the bottom, and when you stir it up, look at that. Oh, you see the floaters? Wait. There goes the spinners, right? So if it's in the gas tank, I know there's a little filter in the tank, but it's going to be in the carburetor. And like I said, I'm trying to build up a relationship. It's March. He brings this machine over. I don't know him all that well. He doesn't know me all that well. I go, what's the story? I said, start it for me. And as he's bringing it over, he's going, I just had it tuned up and mechanic and okay. Starts it up. Revving really high, right? I'm like, shut it off, Mac, right? It smoked it's like 4 pulls it didn't want to start. And I'm thinking, wow, he's really, because he's a strong guy. So he's like, I saw a guy break the cord once. I'm like, bro, you don't need to pull that hard, right? You don't need to rip the cord off. So if 4 pulls later, I counted them. It finally starts, blue smoke comes out, and he goes, well, that's because I was turning it around and shoving it in his trunk, because he's got a couple of beater cars that he uses. Oh, let me turn the heat off. Hold on. And that could be true, all right, because these motors are susceptible to you jostling around. I took a peek in here, and the oil was clean, and it looks like it's correct. I'm going to check it again later, but just to make sure. So it's revving up. I'm like, shut it off, man. You're going to blow. She's going to blow. So I asked him again a little bit later on. I texted him, like, how long has it been doing that? Like, have you been cut lawns like that? Whenever you're like a newer relationship, from my point of view, right, I'm not going to sit there and give the guy a questionnaire list and going, I want to know when this was repaired. Was it last year? Was it recently? What kind of tune-up? How much did you pay? Who's the mechanic? Is it your brother-in-law? Is it your father? Is it you? Is it somebody you know? Is it your neighbor? You know, who did it? When did you do it? No, I'm not. And they may not even tell you. And honestly, as a contractor, he may not even care. This isn't like his main machine. So I don't know. Mechanic were in it, and tune it up. And I get it. She revving like crazy. She don't want to start. She got water in the gas. What do you guys think it is? Okay. So give it some thought. What would be your first thought? For those of you that know a little bit more, what do you think is wrong with it? Now, you know the machine, you know the engine. Some of you that don't know, okay, stay tuned, right? But let's take a look a little bit closer, and then we're going to get to work. Oh, God. Oh, it's blocking out the sun. All right, fellas. So while I'm pulling this apart, we'll run some B-roll. But here's the oil. Let me see if I can get you to see it. It might be too bright, but she's pretty clean. Here, we'll put it on a. See? You can't see any black. I know it's a little bit, the problem with this kind of lighting is we got black here, but this is white. But the oil's not terrible, but she looks like she needs to be changed. When I first looked at it, it was kind of clear, but I've been jostling it around and everything. So I'm stirring up the gack, and it's almost full. Here's the filter. I already took the filter out. So one could say that there was something of a tune-up. It's not really dirty at all. I didn't wash it. I didn't even blow it out. It's not really dirty. So one could say that, and it was used. I cleaned underneath it. We'll take a look at that in a minute. Let me show you the blade. Okay, so I clean and sharpen the blade, and I'll show you underneath in a minute when we get to that. So I clean, sharpen, check the balance. It's good. All right, just a quick cleaning with the pressure washer, and I hit it quick with my little hand grinder, my nice new Milwaukee battery operated. Throw the B-roll here so you can get a little closer look, just sort of sweep over the engine and while I'm pulling this apart. Like I said, it's not really a video on how to take one of these off. I have other videos on this motor where I take them apart and I show you exactly what I'm doing. And so it's not one of those videos. So I'm just, show you that B-roll over the top. Remember that she runs. You see my grin? I didn't hear any knocking sounds yet, although, I'm playing it back in my own head. But I'm thinking, did you hear any knocking? No, and he says it didn't run that long. I got to get the right end for that. But again, I'm like, I can't, I'm not going to nail somebody to the cross, right? You ask all these questions. You're the mechanic. You got to deal with it. And the only way I'm going to know if it's okay is to go over this. Now, and I'll show you a tip in a little bit, but this is automatic choke, which I like. I like those. And this gets a little sticky up here. And it was a little sticky. I just put a little bit of my tranny sauce on it, and I always like to put a little drop of oil or two. Just regular motor oil. That's pretty important, because they do get sticky. They'll seize up. And they'll get a little hot, and some of that oil will burn off, but some of it will coke. In other words, they'll get a little carbonized, which is kind of like a dry lubricant. You gotta do something. So after not to mention the dirt gets impacted and it won't work as well. And they are adjustable. All right, so pulling this off, as you can see, is super easy. I do like these engines because they're easy to deal with. All right. You got to keep your prices low, because although you don't have to be all that much lower these days, because this is, like I said, is about $320. They used to be about $1 and change, and when they first came out, and before they destroyed our financial system, even worse, like this is $100 and something, maybe $175 or whatever. I don't know. You can get them on sale, and it's kind of hard to tune up one of these, because at the local shop it was like $100 for a tune-up, which, blade, oil, filter, whatever, they don't even clean it, and if it doesn't run, that's a repair. Okay, so it's not a tune-up. That would be a tune-up and a repair. Let's bring this over on the bench, and we'll open up the carburetor. We got to disconnect the fuel tank, and I'm going to have to clean that out. I don't know how bad it is yet, but I'll take a peek in that at that in a minute. All right, let's take a look inside here. A little release agent on. I just found another problem, which I'll show you in a minute. Come on, you. Oh, I see crap coming out already. I don't know how dirty it is in here. Well, we probably sucked out most of it. And when they're really bad, I take them over to the slop sink or outside with the hose. We might be able to blow this out and give it another wash. I think we got up a lot of it with the suction tool. So the O-ring was in the wrong place. And I'll show you that footage. And it was jammed in here. Right, see that O-ring? It was actually jammed in there. I had to peel it out. Hopefully it's okay, but I have others. in the wrong place. And it goes here. It goes underneath this. This is its lock ring. It's a lock ring, and it's also like a spacer slash adapter because of the way it fits in into the intake tube or manifold. And another thing I noticed too, which I just put, I don't remember which one it was, but I just put a tool on this. That's loose. Can we tighten it? Nope. Stripped. Because people, that's stripped. Because people use these impact drivers, all these screw, oh jeez, look at all the, look at all the plastic on the threads. All right, I have a fix for that. How's this one? That one's, oh geez, that one's really tight. Let's just mash that in. Yes, drive that, here we go, here. So this is what everybody say, the Blammo blaster, you know, whatever, I have all kinds of names to it. They use these things for everything. Stop it. Or maybe I should put my half-inch drive, right, with the max battery. Well, let's get the max battery. No, for this, right, this M18, this battery ain't good enough, right? We got to use this battery, right, and this half-inch drive. That's what we need to put that thing in there. Oh, my God. Stop it. And I have my little rant. Let's see what surprises? What's the next surprise? Just a little pry right here in the corner. I don't mean to pry, fellas. Okay, not too bad. All right, here's another thing. Yeah, there's some water and junk in there. Oh yeah. All right, let me just, yeah, there's tons of water in that. I can see, you may not be able to see it. Oh, you can see it a little bit. Hold on. See the little bubblies? Hey, all the little glitteries. That's water. But there's not a lot of junk, so that's good. All right, stand by. Let me get this out of here. Here's another thing I see people doing. And even some of the people that I've noticed are pretty good. All right, let's pull this off. All right, that looks good. So you want to get that jet pack out, right? Okay. What I've seen people do is take a screwdriver and try to go in here and pop them out. All right, that's a bad idea. One, you'll distort the plastic, and you can score the plastic, which means that the O-ring will not seal. You can damage the O-ring. Just do this, right? And I said, and I actually pointed this out. There is a little ball here. It's like a check ball, but it's not. It's just a ball. It's just to seal the end. And one guy said to me, I put it on there and it popped out and it went flying. Okay, hold on. Well, my question is, what did you use? This? Is this what you use? And then you set the thing, and then you clamped it, and then you went, and cranked down on it? Is that what? Well, I just put my plier on it, and I grabbed it. Well, how did you grab it, bro? Did you like, and then you popped it like a zit? Well, all like the guy says, well, I just put my wrench on it, and I went in there, and I just grabbed it, and it popped out. People say to me, Arch, you got to be specific, but a lot of us don't know. Okay, fellas. Just take a simple little thing like this. Just grab it enough. You know, wow, geez, where's... Just grab it, hold on to it, and just give it a tug. That's all. I'm going to brace it and just pull it. Pull it!
Pull it!
You pull it!
Twist it! Pull it!
Just give it a pull. Don't grab this thing with all, you barely even need to grab it. And, you know, I mean, this is actually a little worn, this tool now. I should actually put a file to it and clean up the cleats in there because it's getting a little bit, it's old. It's been around forever, like me, Craftsman. Yeah, that looks good. All right, we're all good to go. Now, a lot of people replace these. You can often see inside them when there's a lot of, believe me, I've pulled these apart and there's a lot of junk. Now, when I wash with something like this, I don't do a lot. Now, there is another little problem in here, okay? And generally, it's not an issue. And I probably won't do anything about it because I don't see a lot. But it is, I do see a little bit of junk right in there. But down in here, there is an adapter. It's a Venturi adapter. It's a plastic Venturi. And I showed it on other videos. On the ones where I push prime, there is no choke the choke plate and all of that is a little set up a little bit different. This is not push prime, and it will fall out, and that's a good thing because it only goes in one way. It has to go in before you put this in, and it won't come out until you take this out. And what a lot of times will happen is junk will get stuck in behind that Venturi adapter. It's actually the Venturi. This one's black, but usually they're like white. You're not going to see it. I'm not going to bother either. But so the diameter of the throttle is like this size, and that's the path. And the Venturi is like your sphincter, right? And like when you're like you kind of like hold on to something. You guys ever see anything and it just looks so hard that like you look at it and you're like, oh my God, that's just so horrible, right? And like you can almost feel it in your dick, right? And your sphincter closes up a little bit, right? Well, that's what it's like. Oh, gee, descriptions. So it's smaller than the circumference of this opening. And when that occurs, when you do that, the air coming in speeds up in that area as it gets constricted and narrowed down. It's like putting your finger over the end of a hose, right? To create that higher pressure so that you can, instead of, because you're lazy and you don't feel like walking 5 feet to go and get the actual hose adapter, right? The hose end for your nozzle. No, you just put your finger over it. That's basically what it does. It speeds up that airflow and that fuel flow, but it also creates a negative pressure. So on one end, it creates a higher pressure, and on the other end, it creates a negative pressure, which is that negative pressure is what's used to suck the fuel up through everything. That's how it gets up there, all right? You need to create that negative pressure to suck everything from inside that bowl through the jets. That's a basic explanation. Shit gets behind it. This looks real good. So all I'm gonna do, just to get the water out and an inspection, I'm just going to take my thing here. I always see people do this. Like, they spray. Yeah, this thing's clean. They spray onto a napkin or a towel or a blue towel, and they waste all of this stuff. Don't waste it. It's useful. Right? You can clean the outside of the carburetor. Rarely, I mean, I don't have one of those buzz tanks, but they're only useful for carburetors that are like really dirty. Like if you're going to use it for a carburetor and maybe you can't get that carburetor, you don't want to wait, you got to order it and you want to try. But if, generally speaking, if you have to really clean a carburetor, it's no good. You know, let it go. So everything on here looks good. This tends to get loose and can fall off. I've seen people break that. I think we're okay. Now here's another spot. Debris will get stuck underneath here. But this carburetor looks real good. Yeah, I'm not seeing any debris. It's just got water and junk in it. Good, so I can do another quick cleaning on that gas tank. We'll blow that out in a minute, and then real quick in here. Like this, all this looks real good. So somebody might have been in here and cleaned it, but they didn't know what they were doing, and they didn't bother to take pictures, and they didn't bother to look at how things go. Let me blow this off. I'll be right back. We're going to set up for putting everything back together. And I got to go find my parts box. Hold on. All right, so we're going to put this thing back together. Before I do, here's a car I pulled out. So you see the white? That's a Venturi. Right, it's the same thing in the other carburetor, but this doesn't have a choke plate, right? Because it's a push prime. And when you take this off, and you take everything off in there, and you get your jet out, this guy right here, pokes up through in there, and you can almost see a little bit of it in there poking through. It's right here. Well, it holds that Venturi booster. Annular booster. It holds it, and now it can't come out. All right, so it's locked in there, but so much dirt gets in behind that. All right, let's put this back together. It only goes one way. Again, low pressure air is what I blew it out with. It's nice and clean. Put a little lubricant on it. This is my tranny sauce, so it's good for it. It's not going to hurt it. It will only go in one way, and okay, it will not go in the other way. So. And you can see it's just not going to go in. Maybe use a hammer, okay? Bang it in there. That's it. Get your big wrench out. Listen. Just a little bit of a pop. And again, if you were to shove screwdrivers in there, you're going to distort the plastic, probably ruin the O-ring gasket. What a mess. And I've seen even some like big names, you know, do that. I'm like, I'm not making fun of anybody, but I'm like, what are you doing? Give me that. You know, that's just bad practice. And don't use a ridiculous wrench. All right, let's get this guy. I really cheaped out on this one. It's all plastic. It used to be like metal with the tip on the rubber tip on the end of it. And when you look at these, it almost looks like this pivot would just pop in, but it doesn't. It has to go slide in. I've tried it years ago. I'm like, can you force it in? Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can force pop it down, and then when it gets loose again, right? Then you're like, what happened? All right, so we want to put a little bit of lubricant around this too, because it'll be easier to go in, to make it go in, and make sure we seal it. You don't want to ever. The other mistake people make is, all right, so there's this area here. It's like a pocket. All right, well, that's kind of line up over this. It's to help make a little bit of room for it, but it's also a reservoir for that's the pickup point for that actually is like the main jet. So we want to place it over that, just like that. And you want to push down, line it up and push down, because it should go in by hand. Okay? You don't have to get it seated, but I've seen it where people drive these things down with the screws, and then that's why the screw is stripped. That's another issue. Now I forget which one is which. So let's see. Looks like that one might be stripped out. Let's try this guy. Just gonna snug it, just to help seat everything. Oh, no, that one's stripped. All right, let's try the other side. That feels better. Yeah, that feels a little better. Now, let's crap off. Well, there's your threads. There's your problem, lady. All right, now a couple of things you can get. Bread tie, not a bad thing to use. These are the more like electronic-oriented style ties. And the other thing we can use is like, yeah, here's one that I pulled it tight, and I guess I did decide not to use it. It's just a small tie wrap style thing, locking style tie. These are real good to give it a shot. Comes in colors. If you insist on black, go for it. Shove it in there. And like, you can use a Loctite, but the thing is, you're not going to get it tight, right? So Loctite's not really going to do you. The bread ties are usually better to start off with. Let's see if she'll tighten up. Ruin the housing. There it goes. There it goes. It's probably about tight enough. No. Yeah, it's borked. Okay, so even that. You can go to a bigger tie wrap. This has got wire in it. So that's another reason why you might want to use it. Let's see if we can get that piece out. Yeah, get that out of there. This has got wire. So that's another reason why it might be better to use one of these, like a bread tie or something, because it's going to hold a little bit better. Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, that's better. It's still not great. All right, so I'm going to pull it out. Still not great. I mean, it got real screwed up. We're going to put, so it likes to have, yeah, it's pretty much in there. Let's put a little bit more in, since we know. And yeah, it's bad. So the housing is no good. So let's put it in, hopefully one last time, and now we'll use a little bit of Loctite. Oh, here we go. Oh yeah, that's tight, fellas. That's tight. So it needed one more of the bread tie, and then we use the Loctite just in case. So probably get another rebuild out of this carburetor, but it's obviously been damaged. And they usually, what I like about these carburetors is that they don't react to the alcohol for the most part. These systems are very easy to fix and service. I like them a lot from that point of view. Let's put the O-ring in. All right, so the way he had the O-ring was this way. He put it like this, and then this way. So that means that the O-ring can only seal by getting mashed up against this white piece, this lock. And this lock fits in here, all right? So, and it's got some ribs. It's ribbed to help lock it into the plastic for our pleasure, okay? It's not just for her pleasure. Sorry, ladies. And then this O-ring would lay on top of that, right? And it would only be sealing, well, it could only seal to the back of this. There's a step in here. Okay, there's that step. And usually I put the step out. Okay, I'm not exactly, I don't think they all have that. So if it happened to be out, you'd have really no sealing surface. What you want is to seal the tube, this tube, to the other tube, and this O-ring is going to fit down in here in like this tube, right? We'll just call them tubes, the part of the carburetor. So now it's sealed up against the back here. There's a shelf or shoulder here, so it can't keep going in, so it's going to seal there, and it's going to seal to the outside of the O-ring, pressing up against the inside of the perimeter or the diameter of this tube. And then it's going to grab, like your sphincter, it's going to grab around the intake tube and make a seal. And to keep everything happy and married, okay, and we're going to put that indent out, this lock goes in place. Now, and for assembly, and again, for our pleasure, a little lubricant. All right, make sure everything's working good. Now, last, okay, you guys see anything? Have you seen it yet? Has anybody commented on the video? I don't know. I'm making a video, so has anybody seen anything yet? What's wrong? What's wrong with this? Which one of these things is not like the other? All right, here we go. Okay, so here's the spring. It's missing. Okay, it was gone. This is the correct factory style spring for this. And it goes from here, right, over to this little cleat right here. And as you can see, this has got these levers here. So when the choke gets actuated, it moves the throttle. And I'll show you. Like that. This is how it would be. So when the choke gets actuated, it starts to move these levers. And let's see if we can get it to do it without it. Okay? Like that. So it helps to throw, when the choke gets pulled on, it helps to throw the throttle as well. Now let's do this. It's easy to show you on the machine because I'm missing some of the action here. But normally what I'll do before I pressure wash, or even a hose, I'll reach in there and I'll take this off and put it in my tool tray, because any pressure washer or even a strong hose can throw that. What can happen is you won't have correct throttle control, and you're definitely not going to have correct like reset. So you got to have some room here to like play to allow the mechanism to do its thing. And you won't have proper choke, and you're not going to have proper throttle response. It's not going to reset. Now, why would it be flailing in the wind? Well, this spring isn't really controlling this throttle. It's just controlling the throttle in relation to the choke. So why would it be revving up? Pulling all that air in, and then to compensate with all that air leak in here. What the engine was doing was going, oh, I got all this air to play with, as if the throttle was wide open, literally bypassing the throttle. So all the carburetor had to do was go, all right, you're wide open. You're sucking on me. I just gotta give you enough fuel to supply the fact that you want to run wide open. Okay, I'll keep doing that until you throw a connecting rod. So that was the problem. That was most likely the issue here. Is there was such an air leak. The carburetor just tried to keep up by supplying all the fuel. Let's put this back. I mentioned that this was stuck before I washed it. And I put a little bit of my tranny sauce on it, and I washed it, and I made it move because I want to see if it's okay. And then now that it's been washed, I put a little oil on it, and it works really good. This little bend here, that's where you can tweak things because it is somewhat adjustable. There's the spring, right? Now this here, where the spring goes behind, or I should say in front of, this choke rod. It was the other way around, and you can flex them a little bit. They can get kind of backwards on you, and this one was, so once I put it all together I could see what I needed to do. So this goes here, this goes here, and you can see what's happening. Right now it's cold, so it's trying to close the choke, and the throttle is set by the governor, but it's actually got like you can't really see it here, but they're going to interact with each other. So as you start the engine, the throttle's going to come up. It's going to be moved. See it? So the throttle is going to come up, right? Because that's what the engine's trying to do. And it's going to try to let the choke come off. See what's happening? And then finally, as this heats up, it's going to push the choke off. So, because when the engine goes to start, if this stays closed, the engine's going to gag. And it may not even run. It'll foul the plug. Well, this allows the throttle to just kind of tweak that choke. And this is why you might want to adjust it, because if you're seeing a lot of black soot and she doesn't want to run when she's cold and she's just pumping out black soot, make this longer. Spread this out. All right? And it'll force the choke to open a little bit more. If you feel like it's not enough choke because this got crushed in because somebody didn't put the top on or they were playing with it, then you bend it closer together and that'll put more choke on. Again, as she tries to, that's how you know the action is right too. As she's trying to come up in RPM to run, because she's going to try to make 3,400 RPM. We need to check the total RPM on this. All right, that's enough of that. Let me just check the plug. Maybe just kind of clean it. And then I'll put the plug back in. I'll put the top on. I'll put this cover back, right, or carb plate. That actually went in there. It was a little tough putting it on, probably because the O-ring got a little mashed, but it should be okay. All right, so I don't know what kind of tune-up it was, but you could see from running like that, it's oil fouled. That plug is just fouled. Let me put the other little light on too. It might help. Yeah. All right, let me just clean that up. We'll pop it back in. So this plug I cleaned up, but I would replace it because it's off-centered. And this is another used plug, but look at how nice that used plug is compared to this one that was really bad. And if you can't get it clean like that, replace it. Probably, I don't have any more of these, but I got this one. That one's nice. So, and put some no-sees on. All right, this one I'm going to throw out. Look at that, they put like a brass tip on it. But that one's a little dirty. But this is the one I just showed you, and it cleaned up nice. So you can see about 30 thousandths, 28 to 30, and a little no-sees. So the deck has been washed, been defouled. You got to do that from time to time. And this deck, it's a fairly new machine, but it's important because otherwise it'll keep building up. And these decks are so thin that they're going to rot, and they rot quick. And usually they start to crack here, okay, in these areas. And you want to avoid that, so don't bang on the front wheels. Bad idea. And you want to make sure you lubricate. You hear that? Oh, lubricate that because they're snapped in here. The steel piece is snapped in here. I've seen it where you can't even get the wheels off. You're done. And the only way, you're not getting it off. The only way to deal with it is you have to unsnap all of this or unbolt it. And a lot of times when you unbolt it or go to unsnap it, it breaks, it's rotted, it's cracked. It's disposable. So keep that lubricated. Keep all your wheels lubricated. We're gonna throw a little bit of grease on those, both sides. It's cold and windy. All right, this cable is really, it's getting hard to pull. It's grovelly. We're going to fix that. But let's let it run. Let's test it. We'll get to that later. Here we go, on its own. Sounds good. Let's check the RPM. some of the junk. She should be warm enough to... Oh, fellas. What the hell is that? What kind of tune-up is that? That's got a little metal in it, too. Saw that? And the gray. All right. It's warm enough. I don't need to let it run forever. The oil's not terrible, but that's nasty. All right, now that we got the diarrhea out of it, we're just going to put in some good 1030, mineral-based oil. All right. Another one of these. Let's just get that out of there. We'll replace that. And then I'm going to pull the top off again real quick because the oil's in. But I just want to go over the cable just real quick. All right, I'll show you. All right, see these? I don't know, people cross-thread them or whatever. Look. See how it moves? All right, that's annoying. Okay. Let me pull these out, just check them through, run them back in again. All right, see these? All right, well, as soon as I'm done doing the cable. What is this? Cut those, but cut them flush. Use some kind of flush cutter. Cut them flush, because if you don't, right, this could be sharp when you cut them and that'll rip your hand up. What the hell is that? All right, just pop the handle out of its hole, pull this. All right, and we can come down here, and I'm not going to probably do, one hand, just pull that, pull your slack, make sure this is clean, wipe it off with a little lubricant or something, it's a little wet. Put some chain wax, chain lube. I like to use white grease. Pull it back through, pull it in, pull this up, put the white grease, lube, or whatever you want to get on there. Pull it back and forth a few times. A drop of oil on the pivot over here, or a little chain wax or chain lube on the pivot. Put it back together again, right? And then you'll feel it. You'll feel a big difference. And then it's serviced and it's less likely to rot. Now, you can also hook up a luber and try to blow lube through. I'm just showing you this is like a quick maintenance thing. Yeah, that's gross. Now you can throw a little oil in it. No grease. Chain wax is your best bet. You can put grease on it, but chain wax is your best bet. You can spray a little chain wax in there on both ends and roll it. And then it'll grease up, wax up, and it's more like a dry lube. You can put a little white lube in there. You can take them off. I'm going to just spray it on there and see if I can just get it to roll in. Sweet. Okay, fellas, as promised. So just go over this again. A paint filter funnel. I was just doing this with my other customer. There's actually some crap in the bottom of it. You want to keep the junk out. If you feel that you have an older can and there's still good gas in it, maybe do this. Buy a new can, buy a new gas filler can. So it's clean. But, even the pump, you could get crap in. So whatever. If it's questionable, if you don't put it in, people like me don't have to get it out. And then lastly, again, there's alcohol in the gas, about 10% depending upon where you live. That alcohol, like a mixed drink, it's hygroscopic. So it's going to pull water in from the atmosphere. Some of these things are sitting over many months, like I mentioned earlier. The gas caps are vented. This one's vented. Many times the gas cap is vented. This one is actually vented in here. We'll show you that in a minute. Depending upon what model you have, what machine you have. So a simple solution is, and I'm doing this with one hand, but you got to set it up so that, because of that stupid stick that's in there, right, that holds the gas cap in. All right, so now you're good to go. All right, and you can store it like that. Now, this one's got a vent right here, and it comes in over here. So if you're going to store it, you might want to take another piece of plastic, put it over. In fact, you can cover over your filter with your plastic wrap and put a little over this, and that will stop water from being absorbed. Now, people have said to me, well, how does the air get in there? How does it do an exchange? Look, that's a whole other discussion. It does exchange itself. Remember, when things heat up, all right, the atmosphere, this might be cold, sitting all night long. It's cold. Now suddenly you get a day in the winter, a bunch of days, months worth of days, weeks worth of days here and there that are warmer. This is cold. The air temperature has come up. There's going to be a pressure differential, that temperature differential. That's going to cause a transfer of air and a condensation. And especially if this is cold and it starts to warm up, what happens? You get dew point all of that nonsense. Could be the other way. This gets warmed up. The temperature drops at night. This is still warm. Again, it's gonna keep going. This cycle continues, and a bunch of months later, you got, well, hopefully no junk in the tank, but you got water in there. Simple. Now, last thing is, now, depending upon what engine you have, right, you can put a plastic cap over this or shove a wad of plastic in there, and that way it's outside. Now, I've seen this where like the 190cc horizontal shaft engines that are the Briggs engines that are on a lot of these things. They have a muffler that comes up high. And if this valve is open and water starts to come in, it's going to go into the muffler and down and into the engine. So anything you can do, wrap a bag around it, put a rubber band on it. Not just, I mean, if you just put a plastic cover over it, that's not enough. It'll keep the water out and from spilling in, but it won't deal with the exchange of air, in particular with the gas tank situation, because you're not stopping that transfer. You're not sealing it off. You're just throwing a cover over it, maybe holding it down with some bricks or a rope or a bungee cord. It's great to help keep the machine a little cleaner, and I would recommend doing that even after you do these things. And then you shove it out in your yard or whatever. I mean, if you don't have a lot of room, you do what you got to do, or put it in your shed. And it's not to beat up on anybody. It's a little satire in a lot of the stuff that I do. So it's not to beat up on a mechanic, but I did tell him about it. And the important point here is, like, look, regardless of whether or not he's a contractor, he needs this, because if you're just cutting your lawn, it sucks if a mechanic screws up or you screw it up. It sucks. But he's a contractor. You load it in on your truck, you go off, you're trying to get a job done. You really need your crap to work, especially after a mechanic has worked on it and has charged you money. Now, missing that spring, not putting the gasket on, that O-ring on properly, if the contractor had just continued to use this thing, this nice, relatively new machine would have blown up for sure, and then you're out $320 because you got to go get another one. You're out the money. To save a little bit of money on a repair because you gave it to somebody that says they're a mechanic or is trying, there's no money saved there. For something like a spring, and he said to me, he goes, maybe he thought you didn't need it. There's nothing on here, believe me. Briggs and MTD, or this is a Craftsman, but it's MTD, they have pared this thing down to only the things they thought you needed, and it probably needs a few things that you didn't get when you bought it, like quality, right? Durability, right? It's not made for durability and quality. It's not. So no, there's nothing you can say, I don't need that, right? There's nothing like that. Everything has to be in its place. There's a reason for why it's there. And take pictures. You have your phone. Even as a beginner mechanic, you got pictures. You can take pictures. Be observant. You know, one of the things they teach us, or I learned over the many years of taking different courses or whatever, but when I worked like mil spec, we would have considered these things to be a deviation of standards conflict. So that's a DSC. Then there's a deviation of standards norm. All right, so the normal way you would go about it. A conflict is another thing because it's in direct conflict with something. And then there's methods, engineering, and practices, or good practices. That's the kind of stuff that, as a mechanic, a lot of small engine mechanics don't ever get to learn anything like that. And a lot of general mechanics don't get to learn that until you start to get into like maybe a mechanic or B&A, where you're working, you actually get flown to, like the factory or whatever, training services, or you get certifications. You'll probably come through this. But in aviation and other things like mil spec, you're going to learn this stuff. And the idea isn't to know everything, to know everything about your doing. That's really not it. It's really knowing how to learn things and how to use stuff. You don't need to know a whole lot. You just need to know how to do a whole lot. That's the more important thing. When you understand how things generally should go, like good practices, notice my work table's fairly clean. It will get dirty in here, but I clean up. Don't work in a pigsty. Don't work on top of a mess. Don't work in an area, like when I would work outside on the lawn and I'm working with smaller parts, I would lay down a tarp, like a white tarp. Why? Things go flying, you drop them. You ain't finding anything in my lawn, except for dirt. and weeds. If it goes boing, you're done. You're picking up dirt. Like I see a lot of mechanics, they'll just brush the dirt aside and they'll go do a carburetor, and the rest of the machine is filthy. All of my stuff, it comes out like this, and I charge for it. If I'm too, a shop around the corner is like $100 for a tune-up, which is a new air cleaner, an air filter rather, or in plug, however you want to say that. Maybe sometimes it's a fuel filter or an oil filter. Might be a little bit more money. Just like general stuff, the plug, the blade, sharpen, fresh oil. That's like $100. And they don't show you the things that I did and do. They don't clean it. And of course, if it doesn't run, that's a repair. So I don't charge much more than that, really. So if I'm too expensive for somebody, if I'm too much for you, go find less. I'll leave you on that. I'll see you guys later.